My crumb is the end of an era with an advanced look at Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel Years Omnibus Volume 10. Stay tuned! Welcome back, everybody. So, here we go. Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel Years Omnibus Volume 10. What a journey this has been. It's crazy to think about that Volume 1 coming out and then Marvel making a statement that if this sold well enough and if it continued to sell well, then they would keep making these books. And they did. They got them all the way through 10, the final issues, and the return of Roy Thomas. I can't wait to talk about this. But before I go any further, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on January 3rd or 4th, depending on where you get your books. And speaking of direct market, that is the cover we're looking at here by Jim Lee. On the left-hand side is the standard edition cover by Todd McFarlane. It's crazy that we got Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee. And that was the hardest part about this omnibus, which cover to get. But let's shift the focus back to this. This is the direct market cover. And speaking of direct market cover, book market, for the people, my wonderful viewers that have followed my channel for years, have been asking me where the trade paperback weekly reviews are. Those will return next week. So those are coming back next Tuesday. I usually do them today, but all the editing and all the videos, shooting that I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, I haven't had time to go and reread some of these stories or read them for the first time. I actually just finally sat down and read the first two books here, Ant-Man and Fantastic Four. But these are the other books that are coming out this week. I did want to highlight them really quick. You have the Ant-Man Anniversary right there by Al Ewing. And you have the new Fantastic Four. This is the Hell in a Handbasket. The Antithesis Fantastic Four, Neil Adams' story in there, and of course by Mark Waid. The Origin Deluxe Edition, the reprint, don't miss out on this one, of Kraven's Last Hunt. I didn't get to talk about Invasion of the Spider Slayers, and I wanted to. I may sneak this one into next week just to talk about it, and I did want to talk about this one too. I may sneak a couple of these into next week just because I really enjoy talking about these books. But Spider-Woman Volume 3. But let's shift the focus back to this Sumerian. First of all, that cover. Jim Lee, Conan, and Red Sonja holding her own with her iconic bikini look. Oh man, this is just such a freaking awesome cover. The Sorcerer and the She-Devil, part 2 of 3. I love that they kept that intact. That is what exactly the covers are like. Here's what the spine looks like. Roy Thomas, Michael Dougherty, and Gary Hartle are the main creators that work on this volume right here. Volume 10. And then the back of the book showcasing the different covers of the stories collected in here. The book retails for $150, and this one has 944 pages. Here's what it collects. Roy Thomas returns for the end of the original series. And it is true. Conan's Marvel Adventures are back and looking better than ever, remastered to the original coloring. Now, before I put this, or take the dust jacket off, let's see what it looks like on the shelf. Yeah, there we go. Welcome home, Conan the Barbarian, Volume 10. It's crazy that this journey has taken just a few short years. I'm so used to Fantagraphics releasing the Peanuts books like once or twice a year, or the current Carl Barks Duck Library editions. Yeah, this one was a lot shorter. Then again, it's the last one though. Alright, so let's take the dust jacket off. Here's what flaps look like. A little bit about the creators here. And then, of course, a little bit of the behind the scenes of the stories collected in here. Alright, this is what it looks like. Spine, similar to the spine. Actually, it's identical to the spine on the dust jacket, which they've been doing. Right there. Even that image from issue 250 down there. And then the symbol on the back. Now, let's crack this book open. Look at the Sumerians' final adventures in the original classic Marvel years. Alright, let's crack this book open And we have the end pages and this image right here of Conan sitting on a tombstone, a rock, maybe both. Roy Thomas, Michael Dougherty, Gary Hartle, and the original Marvel Years, Volume 10. It's a little hard to read Volume 10 right there, but it's there. Here are all the people behind the scenes, Corey and his group, putting this together, the restoration of the colors and art. Special thanks down here. Special thanks to Roy and Dan Thomas. I wonder if that's because they own like some of the original pages. Conan the Barbarian, Volume 10. Collecting Conan the Barbarian, issues 241 to 275, and What the number 12. Written by Roy Thomas, Sandy Plunkett, Billy Ray, Barry Dutter. Those are the What the issues, and Sandy Plunkett's issue is issue 251. The pencilers and layouts are over here with Gary Hartle, and then Michael Dougherty taking over the book, Tony DeZuniga. So some names that you may be familiar with if you've been reading Conan for a while. John Watkins supplying some of... Actually, he does some of the covers, too. The inkers over here, Ricardo Villagran, Mike DiCarlo, Alfredo Alcala, and the other big one for me were Ernie Chan. Just those inkers coming back. The letterers right here, the colorist, editors, and then the collection editing right there. Table of contents, your introduction by Roy Thomas. This time around, 8 pages long. Now, I stopped reading the introduction because I wanted to finish the book, so I only got to the part where he talked about issues 241 and 242. But really quickly, he talks about him being... wanting to come in with issue 241 as the beginning of the Roy Thomas era with modern Conan. So what he wanted to do with issue 240 was wrap up the young Conan stories that the previous writer had started, and with issue 241 he wanted to just bring Conan back to his particular time that he himself had built in his head. If you know anything about Roy Thomas and the amount of work and research that went into Conan, he treats it with so much love and respect. It's impressive that not only was he able to write so much, but he was able to also research so much and read so much about the character, and it shows how much he really loves and cares about Conan. So yes, this does kick off with the I love maps. I love the inclusion of maps. I hope they continue that. This does start with issue 241 with the Todd McFarlane cover. Look how awesome that is. Now, both him and Todd had worked on Infinity Incorporated at DC Comics, and he brought Todd along to Marvel Comics, and that's why he owns the original art piece of that cover right there, as a thank you for bringing him along. And of course, as we know, Todd McFarlane eventually went over to Spider-Man, and this story is called The Sorcerer and the She-Devil. And if you've read Conan before, you know who the She-Devil is. But this is Conan going back to his roots, going back to Roy Thomas, and the way that Roy Thomas wanted to write the character. And in here, there's a little bit of... I don't know if it's the meta or if it's just Roy Thomas and the way that he felt about the stories that happened between the moment he left Conan with issue, 115, and the return of Roy Thomas. But there's a little thing right here that Conan says. When he talked about walking out of the caves of Sakula's caves, he's been wondering if the life he has led after walking out of that cave has been nothing more than just a waking dream. Now, I like I said, I had to stop reading because I didn't want to be spoiled. I'll go back and read the introduction, but I wonder if he talks about that. If he talks about this is a little bit of a slide to the previous writers that... kind of what John Byrne did in She-Hulk. Yeah, pretty much anything that happened between my issues was just a dreamlike sequence. Which I don't think it's true, because as I read this, there are characters that I do think he wanted to use that had previously been written by someone else. Characters like the Devourer of Souls, who of course was introduced through the pages of Christopher Priest's run, and... or was it James Amadeus? Priest actually did something huge with the character too. But that character comes back through here. And there's a couple of other characters that I won't spoil for people if you've been reading Conan after Roy Thomas left that also show up through here. But the beauty of the first 3 issues are just this wonderful reunion between 3 friends. And that is Red Sonja, and of course, Conan, and Zula makes an appearance here. And he makes a return. And I love the character because I was sad to see nobody utilize the character. So there he is, coming back in his male form. Because if you watch the movie, even though I think it was a decision made by Roy Thomas and the other script, or was it Jerry Conway, I think, that wrote the other school? Can't remember who else is credited as the scriptwriter of Conan the Destroyer. But they decided to make her a female character in the movie instead of the male character that is shown here in the comics. But he comes back through here, and a bunch of other villains come back through here. And it's such a nice addition, and it feels like what he does in this story is he's given us the story of the Black Colossus, but now he's got these new set of characters, his friends, and it's just not Conan by himself anymore. So this story was awesome. And you get some great covers too. Not only, I didn't even talk about that, so you get Jim Lee, you get Tom McFarlane, you get Will Spertasio that does the Part 3 cover. These were like the hot artists of the time. I mean, this is Spider-Man, this is X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor. These were the big dogs at the time at Marvel Comics, and they were drawing the covers for Conan, trying to get people to come in and buy them. Now, of course, they didn't stick around. They didn't draw every cover. And you have, actually, Steve Lytle does a lot of the covers in here. I believe he does the one for issue 250. But Arthur Adams steps in and draws some of the covers, too. There's Gary Hartle actually getting to draw a cover, because he's known for his interior work. Mark Pacella draws a cover, which I found really interesting, because to me, I didn't really think of him as a cover artist, but just kind of like the fill-in artist when Rob Liefeld wasn't able to draw issues of Cable or X-Force, mainly X-Force. This is the beginning of the Arthur Adams covers, and they are great covers. And one of the covers freaked me the hell out because, yes, this right here, is this the end of Zula? I was like, did they just kill my dude on the cover? How are you going to do that? That's a huge spoiler. Now, I'm not going to say what exactly happens in here, but I can assure you that it is not the end of Zula. By now, Gary has walked away from the book, and we have a newcomer. This is Mike Doherty. This is the issue cover right here that I was talking about, issue 250. And Ernie Chan. Oh my gosh, and Ernie Chan inking Michael's pencils feels like a throwback to that John Buscema era when Ernie Chan was actually inking his stuff. And it was nice. And it was nice to be reading Conan again under Roy Thomas. You know, you have this saying that you can never really go back home. And it kind of does feel like that. Because some of the stories have moved on past Conan and where he was supposed to be when Roy Thomas was writing him. But I feel like, yeah, you may never really get to go back home fully, but it's nice to revisit and nice to be reminded where you come from. Maybe that is a really weird analogy I'm just making, so I may edit that part out. Because, well, no, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to leave it in. Because I do feel like that. I feel like when somebody like that comes back to a book that he hasn't been a part of for the last 10 years, you know, you got to work out the kinks. You got to remember where you were. And I'm talking about his writing as I'm showing Sandy Plunkett's fill-in issue here. I assume they were running behind, and that's why they had to have a fill-in issue in this. This is like a story of like Icarus, retold through, of course, Conan. But yeah, it's very much like the way I feel about Chris Claremont going back to X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, whether it's during the Revolution era of X-Men or whether it's the return to X-Men right around the time House of M. Or even Extreme X-Men or X-Men Forever. It's like, yeah, you can't really go back home, but it's nice to revisit where you came from. And sometimes it's okay to stay there a while. But this is what the artwork looks like for a while. Now, of course, Ernie Chan decides to leave the book. He doesn't stick around that much longer, but then you get Alfredo Alcala inking it, who is, to me, up there with Ernie Chan as one of the great Conan inkers. And sadly, with Ernie Chan leaving, you also have Zula that leaves, Red Sonja leaves, but we do have a new character. This is Hob right here. He's not your traditional hero character, or even a character that would team up with Conan, but he does have like a comedic part about him that, I don't know, it kind of works. It kind of works off of Conan. And this story was really surprising. This is the second coming of Shuma Gorath. Now, Shuma Gorath, I'm sure most of people reading comics are familiar with the name because of Doctor Strange. But the name was actually from Robert E. Howard, and there's a whole history behind it, the Book of Shuma Gorath, and actually showing up here in Samaria makes it for a really interesting story because it is a long story. I think it's 7 or 8 parts. Can't remember, but it all leads up to the big fight against Shuma Gorath. And once again, Roy Thomas, you know, making Conan question his beliefs in Crom. I thought that was a really awesome story. So yeah, surprising, there were some really great things to see here because we're talking about 90s Conan when the book was canceled. So I mean, I cannot ignore the fact that the book was canceled because of sales. Now that could be because of a number of things. They had to pay for license. They weren't making that much money off of Conan products besides the comics. So the comics had to make more money than all the other comics that Marvel was publishing at the time, like X-Men, Spider-Man. This is the John Watkins issues, I believe? Yeah, he did 2 issues in here. Really cool. They're very different. They remind me a little bit of like Jean-Paul Leon's artwork mixed with a little bit of Mike Mignola's art. But he gets the job done. And we are introduced to this character here, Imparasa, that's it, who stays a while. No, not Esperanza, or Isparana, maybe I'm just giving her a Latin spin. Let's see here. Stay back, Isparana, that's her name. Death and Glory. And just this artwork, again, so freaking awesome. To me, this right here feels like that John Buscema flair of Conan that has been missing. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels like that because I know several people that have watched my videos to, you know, when I'm talking about Conan, they're like, okay, this is the last issue for me because Roy Thomas leaves. Or this is the last issue for me because Big John's leaving. So it's nice to have that, almost the spirit of Conan back into the comics. Now, sadly, again, because of sales, yeah, the book ends up getting canceled with issue number 275. But before I talk about that, let's check out this. Look at that. That is awesome. The Return of the Devourer of Souls. This time, Conan is just falling through deep space, going on a cosmic journey, unlike Conan that we've seen before. And how in the world did the Devourer of Souls come back? And is he turning souls into worms again to eat them? These are the Colin McNeil covers that I think are really awesome. Yeah, we'll just show the last one. The end. I love this. What do you mean I'm finished? I love that Conan's just walking out asking that question. Michael Dougherty is now being inked by Ricardo Villagran, who will go on and ink him later on too in the pages of Savage Conan, I believe is what I was looking up because I was wondering what ended up happening to Michael Dougherty. Sadly, he passed away in 2016. It's I don't know if it's something I do. I know it can't be the only one where I like someone's art and then I look into, well, let's see what else they've done. Because this is a name I'm not really familiar with because I wasn't reading Conan comics. And if that's mostly what he worked on and he went on to animation, which happens to a lot of artists, I want to know, you know, where else I can find his work. And this is the What The issue. This is the Goodbye letter. I did read this from Roy Thomas. But, yeah, I was looking up to see what else he had drawn. And sadly, he passed away in 2016. At a young age. I think he was only in his early 60s, like 61. What a loss. Here's a Marvel Age cover. And a little bit on the inside talking about Conan. The profile on Ron Lim when he was drawing Conan for a while. The Marvel quiz featuring Conan. This is crazy. I don't know how much of this is true. But so apparently this is the pencils here by Mike Dougherty. And to the right are the inks, or as they're called, embellishments, by Ernie Chan. And I'm going to zoom in just so you can take a closer look. Because that can't be... I mean, I've heard of inkers, making or breaking the artist, but that's even redrawing some, I mean, that's adding so much detail to the characters, changing the bodies completely. This looks like maybe even a layout, and this looks like finishes to me. And maybe that's what they mean. I mean, this doesn't look like finished pencils, but everybody has a different style. And it's not like without Ernie Chan, Michael Dougherty was a bad artist, because he's kind of a kick-ass artist, regardless of who's inking him. Like, this is an issue here by Ricardo Villagran inking his stuff, and it's still solid artwork, but that just, to me, blew me away. So, again, this is the stuff that you'll find in Marvel Age. This amazing picture right here. I think that's Jim Starlin and, Jim Starlin and Ernie Chan. Conan the Conqueror. The Handbook of the Conan Universe reprints, new covers, house ads, and original pages, including this one here, original art. This is the one that I believe at the end of this, Roy Thomas was talking about how this was gifted to him. So thanks for being there in the beginning, Todd McFarlane. It's like, it's what you do, man. You pay it forward. It's about that, because without that chance of getting to draw that comic, we would have no Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane or Spawn, and you wouldn't have been able to buy baseballs and build an empire of toys. And the end. That is a killer pencil work right there. I like that. Original line art. All right, let's look at the binding, and then I do want to talk about this printing here. 944 pages, and here's what the eye looks like. This one here printed at the iMac printer. Now, out of all the Conan Omnis that I've owned and read, this is the only one that I've seen some actual bleed through from the opposite side, like, as much as here. Paper, though, it seems like it's that same type of paper they've used on the Conan in the past, so I don't know why they decided to change it up. It has a little bit of a slicker finish to it. Maybe like a semi-gloss finish. No, this is a gloss finish for sure. But it's not like thin like the JMS Spider-Man Omnibus. So I don't know what it was about this particular copy. Now, this could be my copy alone, but I do need to talk about this in one particular issue. And it's going to be hard to talk about this because one of the pages is like the last page of the story. Okay, in issue 269, but I just wanted to showcase this issue because I think that's awesome. Again, Colin McNeil. Conan just sitting there. I think that's a tombstone. All right. So, in this issue, I thought, I was like, wow, the bleed through is really, really bad in this copy. But no, it's actual imprint of this page right here happening on page 709. So it's like the bottom part of page 710 happening down here. And the same thing happens in page 712. You get the bottom part of 711 down here. I mean, it's almost like a ghost image, if you will. Does it get in the way of reading? No, but it stood out. Like I said, I thought it was, wow, that's a big bleed through coming through here. But it only happens one other place, and that is right here. And I can't show page 730 because it's a big spoiler as to what's fallen on the other side. But it's this right here. Like, normal bleed through looks like this. But this definitely stands out. And again, it's only those 3 or 4 pages. And I read the whole book cover to cover. I didn't notice anything else. And again, it could just be my copy. I never know with these things, but I do like to point out if I do see something like that. But that's it. Man, glorious ending to one of the greatest sagas that I'm so glad I got hooked on. I guess that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, which cover you're going to get, if you're going to continue picking up Conan the Barbarian, whether in omnibus format or whatever trade paperback format that Titan decides to release. Well, I'd love to know all those answers in the comments down below, and if you have any questions, leave your questions down below. But that's it, everyone. My goodness. That really is, as they say, is that coming to a close. This phenomenal journey that I'm so glad I got really deep into. So, I guess I will see what happens next. Maybe check out Conan the Adventurer if that's ever released in this format. And of course, continue reading Savage Sword and King Conan in omnibus format when those come out. But that's it. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.